Hello, I'm Rowan and welcome to this extremely important and definitive tier ranking of queer movie tropes, specifically tropes around the lesbian, queer woman, bi woman, WLW, I don't really know what to call it as a collective, community. The sapphics, if you will. In a twist that no one predicted, we actually have a sponsor for this nonsense, so thank you very much to Fiverr. I will talk a little bit about them later in the video. If you are doubting my credentials in the matter of this tier ranking, then it might interest you to know that I co-host a podcast which is entirely about queer movies with my friend Jazz. It's called the Queer Movie Podcast because we love a to-the-point title. If you enjoy these chaotic videos that I do, then you will definitely like the podcast because it's basically that energy, except it's also me and Jazza bullying each other like all good British friends do. And instead of it dropping once a year like these chaos videos do on my channel, it drops every 2 weeks. We actually have a special offer going on at the moment over on our Patreon. If you sign up by this date, then you're going to get a personalized queer movie recommendation or potentially TV recommendation based on the types of films and TV that you like. So definitely go and check that out. The link is in the description. If you enjoy the podcast, please consider it because we like to be able to pay our editor Julia. She does very good work and maybe eventually pay ourselves. Okay, let's get tier ranking. Today is a very hot day. In fact, it is the hottest day. Not of this week, not of this year. Turns out of all time, or at least since records began in the UK. Am I sitting here with my feet in a bucket of ice water? I'll never tell, you little perverts. But yes, today felt like a day for chaos. I have my patented chaos shirt on that I wore for the gay Disney Olympics video and the Luca chaos video. So I think it's just a tradition at this point that this is what I'm wearing unless I'm wearing a full costume, like for the Captain Marvel meerkats and the little bit of the Our Flag Means Death chaos videos. I'm all dressed up. I got nowhere to go except to talk to you because it is too hot to go outside. Apparently plastic is melting, so let's get on with it. So what are these tiers that we are going to be ranking these tropes into? I've gone with 5 tiers. I feel like that's a good range, and we have named them. So at the bottom, the very worst of the worst, I have simply called a crime. I guess we'll see which tropes end up going in there. The one slightly above that is, I'll skip that scene. Maybe it's not going to stop me watching the movie, but I'm maybe just going to give it a little fast forward, or I'm going to roll my eyes when I'm watching. The one above that, bang average, is some nuance July. An offshoot, if you will, of no nuance November, except it is July and we're giving some nuance. So this is maybe a trope where I can see it working sometimes. Sometimes it can be used badly, sometimes it can be used well. There's, extremes on either side. Very much the middle ground. Above that, we've got let's go lesbians, let's go. That's for tropes which are excellent, very, very good, but not quite our final tier, the absolute god tier, which is the gold star sapphic. We are reclaiming the problematic, rubbishy gold star lesbian term. It's just going to be gold star sapphic, and from now on, that's just going to refer to very good tropes in movies. It goes without saying that this is just my opinion, so I fully welcome some good-natured ribbing and arguments and takedowns of my opinions in the comments. I'm not saying that I am right, but I'm not saying that. You know what I mean? I'm not saying you're wrong if you disagree in the comments out loud. Okay, so the first trope that I'm going to be ranking is age gap romance. So we see this, for some godforsaken reason, all over the place. Obviously, the one that everyone will be familiar with queer movies in general will be something like Call Me By Your Name. I feel like that's the obvious one, but it is present in the ladies as well. So Carol is a very obvious one, Ammonite as well. There's a ton of them. My personal opinion is, here's the thing. Tropes, cliches, sometimes they reflect on our world. And there are people who are in age gap romances in our world, but I don't like them in my media. I feel like Call Me By Your Name is a bad offender in terms of it being literally an underage boy. Still, with things like Carol, it just really emphasizes a gap in not just age, but also life experience and maturity. And there's also some weird parallels in Carol. Tell me I'm wrong. Carol's love interest, Therese, weirdly has the same haircut and kind of dresses the same as her daughter. I don't know, I'm not into it. For me, it's, and technically sometimes is, a crime. Slam dunk, first one, straight to the bottom. Get you to hell. Look, I know that it's a thing that happens, and I'm sure that there are versions of it which are done in a really interesting way. And even now I am thinking about ones that are done in an interesting way, but I still just feel like the bad outweighs the good. I'm just not into it. And what I say goes in this video because none of you are in this gross, sweaty, hot little flat stopping me. So to hell with you, age gaps. I'm aware that straight people have hands, okay? But the Queer Movie Podcast Discord, which is a Discord for patrons of the Queer Movie podcast, we do a watch along every month of a new queer movie. And while we're watching, we're all commenting. And so we have some recurring things that we have picked up on over watching, like, it must be over 100 movies at this point. There's been so many of just stuff that's just gay. Bicycles, so many bicycles in gay movies. Water is gay. Moonlight, obviously, if you've listened to me talk about Moonlight for 2 seconds, you know that I will constantly talk about the water imagery in Moonlight, which is obviously a God tier movie. The moon, of course. There's just a lot of gay things that happen in a lot of movies. Hands are one of them. Close-up shots of hands, lingering touches of hands. If this wasn't a chaos video and hypothetically I was writing an essay about it, I might go into, holding hands is something that historically and even now we have data to suggest is an act of intimacy which is innocent, ultimately, but which queer people find extremely scary sometimes to go out in public and do. And therefore, there is a kind of sweet, intimate romance in having hands touching hands within queer movies. But this is a chaos video, so be quiet, analytical brain. The ADHD brain is out today. But for all of the reasons that I just hinted at, and also for the fact that it is one of the classic tropes within the queer movie podcast watch-alongs that we always watch out for, it's a gold star sapphic. I realise that we've gone to 2 extremes with these first 2 ones. There is just something about the sweet little hands touching. Like, okay, I am aware, again, as I say, that straight people have hands. Okay, if you're a straight watching this, or I guess, in fact, anyone who likes men, the scene in Pride and Prejudice with the little, hand twitch, think about how feral everyone went over that, right? Okay, it's like that, but with women. Do you see where I'm coming from here? Okay, it just makes sense. Also, it's just occurred to me how asexual I am because obviously hands are sapphic in a sexy way as well. But, get your minds out of the gutters. First, my feet in a bucket and now the hands. You're on thin ice, buddy. I wish I was on thin ice. I'm so fucking hot. Okay, number 3. They're cheating on their boyfriend/husband. It happens so much. Why is he there? Why bother with him being there, right? We can have someone who's discovering their sexuality and they could just not cheat. So where does this happen? I made a list of movies where this happens. Imagine Me and You, Disobedience, The Kids Were All Right, Dickinson. It happens all the time, constantly. I'm sick of it. I guess you could argue that it adds some nuance in there, some morally grey aspects. It really emphasizes the attraction between these 2 women, that it just overcame this person's existing relationship. Ugh. And the funniest thing is, so often, there's not even that much chemistry between the women. You know what I mean? I've just seen too many movies where 2 straight actresses are pretending to cheat on this guy that they actually fancy. I'm sorry, I said it. However, I will acknowledge that Imagine Me and You, for example, is an extremely iconic queer movie. It's one of the most iconic British queer movies, and it actually gives us a classic wholesome British rom-com a la Hugh Grant vibes. And therefore, I think I have to put it in, I'll just skip that scene. I'll just simply pretend it doesn't happen. Is that difficult in Imagine Me and You, where the entire premise is that they meet at this woman's wedding to a man? Maybe. But you know what? I think I have that mental strength. Okay, I didn't mean for us to have all different tiers from the get-go. Let's see if the trend continues with number 4. Silent, in inverted commas, passionate sex. Okay, as established, asexual lesbian here. So maybe I'm biased against boring sex scenes. But I can appreciate chemistry between 2 women on screen. And I know when it's just weirdly silent except for ASMR sex noises. Here's my question to you. Why are sapphic characters never allowed to have fun when they're having sex? Why is it always just ASMR sex noises and silence and gasping and panting? There's no conversation. There's no flirting. There's no real intimacy, I would argue, in a lot of these scenes. It's just weird orchestral music in the background. It's just boring. There, I said it. Again, do I have to acknowledge my asexuality within this? Yes, but I can still appreciate it when it's trying to remember any sex scene I've ever found interesting. Sense8, when they had those orgies, you know what? That's a different matter for a different time, okay? And I get what they're trying to do, arguably. Kind of similar to the cheating on the husband thing. Maybe they're trying to persuade us that straight people have chemistry, straight women have chemistry together. So they're just look, they're just so desperate. They don't even talk. They just sort of be passionately silent. I don't know. I just feel like Like, let lesbians have fun in bed. That's the takeaway that I need the film industry to get from this video. If you're watching Hollywood, please fix this. Also, maybe it's the ADHD in me, because I find very similarly with battle sequences, like fight sequences, if you're not doing something interesting and new, if there's not some kind of like character moment happening here, if there's not some kind of plot development, if there's not something interesting about it, I'm just going to be bored. It's just two CGI things fighting each other, just bashing each other, just banging each other. You know what I mean? Fix it, Hollywood. I'm going to rank this. I'll skip that scene. It's not a crime because it doesn't ruin a movie. And sometimes there are like reasons for silent, weird, passionate, unpassionate sex between two straight actresses. Okay, I get it. But for the most part, I'll just get on with the rest of the movie. Okay, number 5. Honorary lesbian Natasha Lyonne is in the movie. Here's the thing. I was about to say, do I need to say any more? And immediately rank it high, but I have remembered that I'm pretty sure she's in Geography Club, which is a very mid movie. So maybe this might be our first entry into Some Nuanced July, where it's like, there can be extremes. Okay, first of all, did we know that Natasha Lyonne, as far as anyone can tell and in any interview she's ever talked about, she identifies as straight? Are you telling me classic lesbian cheerleader from the lesbian classic But I'm a Cheerleader is not a lesbian or a cheerleader? Colour me surprised. Colour everyone surprised, because I feel like every time I mention this, there's always one person in a group setting who's like, wait, she's not. No, it is her world. We are simply living in it. Also, obviously, like Orange is the New Black, for example, she's in that and she's queer in that. So I'm going to have to solidly be like, it's the nuanced one. It's the middle one, because again, I don't know if she can save fully bad or even mid movies with her presence. She can try. God, can she try? She can get close. But, you know, often in those movies, she's like a side character. And I'm not going to skip every scene except the scenes that she's in. I could. And there's probably a scene edit, like a scene pack edit on YouTube with that, but we're going average, we're going nuanced. Number 6, it's our favorite, the bury your gays trope, lesbian character dies. Obviously also by women, any women loving women character, they dead. Here's the thing. I acknowledge that there are movies that do this, that are good movies, they're great movies, whatever. But at this point in my life, do I want that? Do I want to suffer in that way? Unless it is like one of the best movies of all time, you know, maybe then there was a reason for it. It was part of this incredible piece of art. But realistically, they're just dead. And there's only so many movies you can watch in your life, right? You're not gonna be able to watch every single movie. Are you telling me that you're gonna watch movies in which they're dead, in which they die? Why bother? Why do that to yourself? Who hurt you? Also, oh my God, there are some movies where they didn't get the memo from 2016 when they were killing all the lesbians off in television willy-nilly. They didn't get the memo, Hollywood, and they were like, what if we added more queer death to our media? So the one I'm thinking of, and if you know, is the one that's called... God, what is it called? Tell It to the Bees. Call Me by Your Bee's Name. Whatever the fuck the Bee Movie. It's not the Bee Movie. Because apparently that's based on an actual novel by an actual lesbian. And in the novel, they don't die. Spoiler alert, sorry. They're one of them at least dies in the movie. I feel like this is an endemic that we do not need. I feel like we need to just make a hard line for a bit and be like, look, let's just agree for the next 5 years. Let's just not. You know, let's not do that. And also I feel like there's a lot of fun to be had with some fake outs, with some like, just kidding, haha. So obviously, Love of My Life, the show Black Sails, is infamous for the unbury your gays trope, in that literally almost every single queer character in that show, of which there are multiple, has a moment which you're like, are they gonna die? And then they just simply don't. Come back from the dead? Yeah. Fake out death? Yeah. Actual death? Not really. There's like one. And I truly respect them for that. We've suffered enough and we should just have a period of reanimated gays. Either as zombies, which In the Flesh, another incredible TV show, does, or just, it was all a dream. It simply didn't happen. So where am I ranking this? I can't rank it with I'll skip this scene, because it's quite difficult to skip a death scene and not be constantly reminded of the death that happened. We're going to have to enter it onto the books as a crime. Oftentimes, actually, in these things, it is a crime. Quite literally, it's a murder. It's going into jail, into hell. I apologize for nothing. Number 7, butch women included only as a joke, or like not included at all. Finding examples of someone not being included is quite difficult, because it's basically just like every movie. The idea of having two like women together, the most that they sometimes do is like, oh, one of them wears jeans. There's not really like actual butch representation, right? Like butch as an identity which has a long history, but also just like genuinely super masculine queer women. They get the rough end of the stick, to be honest. And I will say, femme lesbians, even though technically the women on screen are like feminine. I feel like there's like a femme energy that is also not appreciated or properly on screen. It's like, is this just a straight woman in a dress? Who can tell? So I will say that this is an actual problem, a genuine problem, and I hate it. We should definitely have more butch characters within our movie scene, giving them big budgets, giving them actual nuanced storylines about being masculine women, about being butch specifically, about being like, for example, identifying as a stud, as a black woman. Things where it's like, okay, this is actually like, we're digging into the community here. We're actually giving you interesting storylines that doesn't just revolve around like external homophobia. You know what I mean? So I'm talking like Stud Life, Pariah, Watermelon Woman, Princess Sid. Let's be giving butch women the fucking stories and the films that they deserve, and not just have it be a side joke or a symbol of like unattractiveness or undesirability. Absolutely not. The industry as a whole, not including butch women within the movie like scene, except in like low budget indies that are like pulling themselves up by their bootstraps, is a crime, and I'll say it with my full chest. Number 8, sharing a bath. Did I just include this because I know in my heart of hearts this has happened in multiple movies, because I've clocked to myself that it's happened while I'm watching it, and I was like, oh, it's that bath thing again. It's that bath trope again. Could I, for the life of me, while I was thinking about this video, remember any time it had happened other than in The Handmaiden? No. For that pure and simple fact, sharing a bath is going to have to be high on the list, because The Handmaiden is one of the best films of all time. So, also, I will say the bath sharing scene is not just the idea of like casual intimacy and like all of that kind of stuff, but specifically it has like plot resonance. I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to spoil anything, but if you've watched the movie, then you know that there is different readings of the bath scene. I'll just leave it there. But if you haven't seen the movie, what are you doing watching this video? Go and watch The Handmaiden. It's incredible. I'm telling you right now, if you have ever suffered from I find lesbian period drama movies extremely tedious and boring syndrome, like I do, watch The Handmaiden, because it's like, hey, what if it's a period drama, but also a like psychological thriller? Chef's kiss. Incredible. I'll say no more. But yes, bath time, it's intimate. It's sensual. It's, you know, can be cute. Maybe there's a rubber duck in there. I don't know. There's bubbles, which are always great. You see, you're picking up what I'm putting down on every level, on the sexual to the sensual to the just having fun. Baths. That was my ad for baths, and having them with your gal pals. And therefore, this is the first entry into the second tier. Let's go lesbians, let's go. And that leads us on to number 9, a lack of historically accurate body hair. So it turns out body hair's a thing that people get. Mind blown, incredible scenes out here. What's happening? The people are rioting, everything's on fire. No, it's true. And the phenomenon of getting certain people to just shave certain parts of their body as just like a requirement to be socially acceptable is relatively new. And it was also a requirement that allegedly had to do with things like changing fashions, changing hemlines, like more of someone's body being revealed, advertisers essentially being able to like, oh, we're going to jump on that. If this is a thing that you're not meant to have, we can get you to, you know, to shave it off, to wax it off. We'll sell more product. You will feel ashamed, which we know makes us money. And so all of these movies, these period dramas, these boring ass thing when nothing happens, there's never any plot and it's always so boring, could at least be spiced up with some underarm hair. You know what I mean? I was going to say canonically to history, it would be that. And they just never do. Almost never. Leg hair, armpit hair, pubic hair. It's always perfectly groomed in like a 21st century way in these movies. And I just feel like, give the women some body hair, you absolute cowards. You know what I mean? Commit. She's just gonna whip out a cell phone next? Huh? Is that the kind of historical accuracy you want? Because we know the reason why this is. And it's because we're trying to put beauty standards from our age, which are nonsense anyway, onto these women of the past so that they can be a spectacle, potentially, because I don't really know many queer women who care about other women's body hair, because we ourselves know how annoying it is to like maintain it. That's probably gonna be for the straight men who want to watch a movie about lesbians and they don't want to see the pesky armpit hair, which is so gross. Grow up, men. Anyway, I think the only time that has been of note of seeing body hair on these women that people talk about is like Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Are we surprised that a movie that's that good and that celebrated, committed, You know what I mean? But it's also a shame that it's like the only one. I can't really do a I'll skip that scene, because what am I going to do? Just like skip every time I see a leg? It's going to have to be a crime. It's a crime. I'm putting it in jail. Did I think when I started this video that I was going to put body hair in jail? No, but that's just how these chaos videos go. If you've been enjoying this tier ranking so far and are like, Rowan, what if this was, you know, a bit more interactive? I'd love to utilize this unhinged list in my own time. Well, do I have good news for you, because I have a bingo card you can download and use at your next queer movie night on my website. And I was able to commission said bingo card and very cute illustrations and put it on my fancy new website, complete with new photos, because of today's sponsor, Fiverr. They connected me with some amazing freelancers. Basically, any digital service you can think of, there are people ready to collaborate with you on your projects, whether that's like music production or video editing. I did have an old website that was not the best, let's say. Graphic design is not my passion. So I was super excited to get the chance to work with a website designer on it. I spent a lot of time going through all of the different portfolios and profiles of different people and saving a ton of amazing potential designers before deciding. And she was amazing. Like, got the vibe immediately, knew just what to ask to like make sure it was exactly right, made a mini Pinterest board for me of examples of sites that she thought would match my style. Just like amazing. And I found that it was just as easy, it turns out, to find a photographer who was like not only in London but also specialized in portraits and was available that week for a shoot, as well as the artist that designed the bingo card, which, by the way, was a weird thing to ask someone to make for you. Like, hi, here's the brief, a bingo card but for gay movies, and you'll have to do little illustrations, please. But because we could just use the site to message back and forth, including sending over attachments of drafts, it was very easy to clarify and like make small adjustments during the process. I just wanted to give some appreciation at this point in the video to the people that I worked with this month. They were all incredible. I don't do a ton of one-off collaborating in my work, so it was also very fun. And look what cool stuff they did. If you have a project or idea that you need some help with, then I, of course, have a cheeky discount code for Fiverr to give you. So just visit fiverr.co/Rowan, check out all the services available to you, and you'll get 10% off with the code Rowan. And number 10, we're going meta with this one. Basically, it's just whenever you see actresses who are straight who are playing these roles, and on the press tour, they say things like, it's not a gay love story, it's just a love story. Or they like obsessively talk about the one gay family member to try and almost do like a, I'm not homophobic, my brother's gay, my like uncle's gay. I think it's very cute. I roll. I'm like, oh, bless you. Maybe you did have some kind of PR training for this, but I don't know who you got to do the PR training, because it was not someone who's actually gay. It's just this attitude of like, we need gay stuff to be entirely mainstream. It's just the same. We're all the same as you. Love is love. Love is love, you guys. Love is love. Okay? How dare you suggest otherwise? And therefore, it makes total sense for them to be like, love is love. So it's not gay love, it's just love. And I'm like, sweetheart, babes, stop. Simply desist this nonsense, because it is gay love. That's the whole point of the movie, is that it's gay. And it's actually quite significant that it's gay. It's gay. They're just sweet, silly little children who are just saying things out of their mouths that they think they should say. And therefore, I would say, because hypothetically, they could say that off screen, but still do a good job on screen. They could have a good director, a good writer. They could be good actors, and they could just have some unfortunate thoughts that just come out of their mouth. And therefore, it's going to be I'll just skip this scene. I will just simply skip the press tour. I will never look at the press tour. I've been burnt so recently by the Thor Love and Thunder press tour, where they just had some straight people on a stage who were involved with making the film answering the question whether it was gay or not, and they're like, yeah, it's really gay. Was it though? Or was it just like you had a gay character in there? Huh? Taika, look me in the eyes and tell me you actually think that movie was super gay, sir. Yeah, I thought so. Okay, continuing my trend of absolutely ragging on boring period dramas. Number 11, over a minute of no talking, just a sweeping swirl of an orchestral score. Gay movies do love a montage. I will say that. If we're montaging over music, I don't mind so much because stuff's actually happening. If it's simply as no talking, nothing happening, just boringness on screen for like a prolonged period of time, and they're trying to like make you engaged and interested by just using a good score, I would simply go to a concert. I would simply visit the opera. I don't need that in a movie. Like, hurry the hell up. Sometimes it's fine. Sometimes there's a like reasoning behind it and it's good and whatever. But I'm just like, I listen to voice notes on WhatsApp at 2 times speed, okay? I'm not saying maybe. I'm saying that is a me problem. But also I'm the one making this list. So I will be judging it by my personal tastes and also my neurodivergence. And that says, speed it up, buddy. At least have something interesting on screen while no one's talking and no plot is happening and no characters are apparently progressing. Give me something to work with here. Here is my rub with a lot of those movies that do that. Simply be a short film. You didn't need to be a whole like 2-hour movie because nothing is happening. If I'm having to watch nothing happen for 5 minutes, simply take those 5 minutes out. Be a better writer. Hire better actors. Do we need 5 minutes of a longing glance? Or should you be able to write a story, write characters and act well enough for me to understand that glance in a heartbeat, huh? Challenge yourselves. Don't look to the people who came before you and use these techniques and think that's what we want. We don't want that. We want sparks. We want genuine connection. I challenge all of the sapphic period drama writers and directors. Simply fit it into a half-hour TV slot. Simply imagine that you are an episode of The Big Bang Theory. You know what? I said it and I'll stand by it. Think about yourselves as an episode of The Big Bang Theory. Think about how much they got an A plot and a B plot in that terrible show. And they fit it all into that amount of time. And they probably have more dialogue than your 2-hour film. Sort it out. Take a good hard look at yourselves. I didn't want to have to do this, okay? There has been too many tropes already on this tier ranking which match up. The no talking, the weird silent sex. So many of these are all just the same movie. If you've got more than one of these nonsense tropes in your movie, I know it's set before 1900, and I know that you want to win an award. Haven't I suffered enough? Okay, hang on. I keep forgetting I have to actually rank these. It's an I'll skip that scene as a trope on its own, unless there's something actually like worth filming happening on screen, unless there's something that's going to advance plot or character. Truly, just skip the scene. If, however, it's the entire movie, well, we all know some movies that could fall into this, then I guess it's a crime. To give it the benefit of the doubt, we're just going to skip that scene. Okay, number 12, the depraved bisexual, the evil queer lady, the corrupting lesbian trope. If this had been in a different order, I'll just say it, maybe I would have ranked it lower. But I really feel like the boring period dramas have gotten into my head and I'm like, at least this is interesting. At least you're giving me something to work with here. Maybe that's affected where I'm going to put this. If you've watched literally any of my video essays on like film history, the Hays Code, things like that, I would have talked about this before. Queer villains is like a big thing. Specifically, the way it tends to manifest for queer women is the idea of like the corrupting lesbian, for example. So the idea of, again, age gap romance comes into it. The predatory lesbian, the one who like preys on the innocent, actually straight girl who's just too naive to realize what's happening. And then there's like the depraved bisexual, which is a lot based on the idea of like, if they're willing to like flout the social expectations of gender and of sexuality, if they're willing to just sleep with anyone, who knows what their other morals are. Ugh. That bit of it, obviously, not great. However, at least it's interesting. I'm just going to say it. And to be fair, it has given us some truly iconic movies. Basic Instinct, Cruel Intentions, Black Swan. And so I feel like it would be remiss for me not to put it into some nuanced July, because I do believe there is some nuance to it. There's nothing like inherently bad about having villains be queer, but I do think that like with male queer villains, where it taps a lot into queer coding and like anti like femininity stuff with men and all that kind of jazz, it just is like a really strong tradition going on over there. Not so great. And I think oftentimes filmmakers like don't even realize that they're doing it because they've just seen what villains are like previously and been like, yeah, this is what a villain is, right? And they just repeat it because they're silly. When that is the only like queer or queer coded character you have in your piece of media, and then like that's just repeated over and over again, and you have no alternatives, you don't have any big queer heroes, but you do have queer villains or queer coded villains instead. That's a troubling trend that maybe you should examine further. You being, again, Hollywood, because I assume you're also watching. Giving a bit of nuance, let them be villains, let them be heroes, let us just be like every single character. Wouldn't that be fun? Just like everyone's just a sapphic. The villain, the hero, the everything. That'd be great. Every movie should just all be queer women. The end. Okay, number 13, longing glances. I feel like we can use this like hands. If the longing glances are like, there's a reason for it in the plot. This works. This is a key point of period dramas for the straights that for some forsaken reason are better than sapphic period dramas, right? Like the Austen vibes, the Bridgerton vibes, like the ones that actually have plot and are interesting. There's longing glances aplenty in there. and it works great. Similar to the longing hands from earlier. I love a good longing glance. We have longing glances which have some other stuff going on underneath, some jealousy stuff, some like more dramatic stuff in like The Favourite, for example. So I feel like longing glances, The Handmaiden obviously uses it perfectly, and again with some twists in there, which again, why are you still watching this? Please go and just watch The Handmaiden. I'm almost just about to stop filming and watch The Handmaiden myself, honestly. The video just cut off there. Longing glances have potential. I admit they do have the potential to be misused and boring and have no chemistry. But the potential when it's good is so good that I think it's going in a let's go lesbians, let's go. I also just feel like it's realistic. I feel like how many times have you seen actual lesbians give longing glances to each other and never actually interact? Like never actually say hello. Just eye contact across a bar. And then they're like, oh, that's me, done for the night. And then they leave. I know your type. You're out there. I've seen you, the longing glances. And then when you do talk, immediately you move in together. It's a stereotype, but it's rooted in reality. If someone can find me a sapphic like movie or TV show or like, I don't know, music, I give music video at this point, that gives me the longing glance potential of Claire Danes and Leonardo DiCaprio in Romeo plus Juliet, in the party scene through the fish tank, send it my way immediately. Before even watching The Handmaiden, I need like that is peak longing glances. And like the sapphic should have a monopoly on that. We should like have that in the bag every single time. Please forward me those scenes, those GIFs, those movies, those TV shows. I genuinely think it would just make my life better. Number 14, I would say similar energy, letting your hair down sensually. Okay, so with the period drama, with the idea of body hair, if we're going to acknowledge that idea of the period, we have to acknowledge the fact that like what was sensual, what was sexy back then is going to be slightly different because, you know, it was customary to cover different parts of your body. It was customary to not be in the presence of a man without a chaperone, to not like there's a lot of stuff that to us would be almost nothing that just like gives a little bit more when it's in a period drama, right? Like, oh my goodness, they brushed hands. Oh my goodness, he looked at her through a window while they were both unchaperoned. Like this energy that we have within straight period dramas. The letting the hair down sensually is like a classic of the old-timey, but still relevant today. You telling me a letting the hair down, like the swish, the like, here we go, that's not still relevant today, as relevant as it was 200 years ago. You can't tell me it's not. We love the sensuality of it. We love the intimacy of it. Bonus points if the hair gets played with afterwards, obviously. Doing each other's hair, plaiting each other's hair. I'm fitting the puzzle together. I'm stacking the wins on top of each other. I'm going to say the letting the hair down for long hair, or the like running the hand through, even the shortest hair, the buzz cuts for the butches along the skull. That's a gold star sapphic. That is a gold star sapphic for me. That is what we came to see. I'm going to go so far as to say I'm sticking my flag in the ground. Any lesbian movie would be improved by a scene in which someone either like, you know, takes out a hair clip, takes out a hairpin, and the hair falls sensually down, and or there's someone's hand in someone's hair, because that's also including hands, which we established as well as a top tier trope. That combo, chef's kiss. Incredible. Leading us on to number 15, letters/diaries. Inherently sapphic. There, I said it. Especially historically, you're looking at a time in which people maybe couldn't openly talk about things. We have the classic Anne Lister with her little coded diaries. Okay, an icon, a lesbian icon. The classic love letters. It's romantic. It's cute. There's a lot of potential in the plot for the letters to be lost in the post, or like they never quite get to you. And like, oh my God, my love confession got lost. You never knew. You moved away. You got married. And then years later, we come back together. It's so obvious. I recently read an excellent sapphic YA by my friend Cynthia So, which has like a plot that revolves around this old lady's like secret letters to a maybe girlfriend back in the day. Like, oh, stunning, incredible. We love to see it. And it forms the basis of some brilliant queer movies. The half of it, obviously, the sort of like high school Cyrano situation, entirely based around the ideas of like concealed identity and letter writing and all that kind of stuff. Summerland, which might take the prize for the most underrated sapphic movie of all time. That has letters, writings, just pen and paper, analog, beautiful. There is a moment in Cynthia's book where this character talks about the fact that this girl that she was like really close with in middle school, like best friends. You know that kind of energy when you're like a kid, so you're not quite at the age where your sexuality is coming out in like I'm having actual sexual feelings towards someone or even like romantic feelings I can think, but I'm kind of just obsessed with my best friend and I just want to spend all my time with her and I really love her. One of the friends moves away and gives the other one a letter writing set. One of those like, did you ever have this when you were younger? Because I definitely did. Those like handwriting, letter writing sets where you would get like envelopes and paper and stuff that was themed and had illustrations on it and stuff like that. And you would like write to your friends. I feel like we need more representation of sapphics writing letters to each other on beautifully decorated letter paper that they bought for each other. That's the basis of a whole film right there. Go. I'm giving that to you for free, Hollywood. Make it happen. Does it even need saying? This is full gold star sapphic for me. This just makes complete sense. It makes sense on a emotional level, an intellectual level, every single level. It's just working. But number 16 is bisexual character in some kind of like love triangle, often with one man and one woman, just to remind you that they are in fact bisexual. Or sometimes it's like with a man and a woman, the kind of opposite of the trope that's like the same trope, just in a different font. They never acknowledge that this character is bisexual. Just kind of ignore it. They put them in this love triangle, but they never say the word bisexual. You know, variation on a theme. So movies that we see this kind of thing in, like Marguerite with the Straw, Blue is the Warmest Color, Three of Hearts, Chasing Amy as well, which is kind of like the extreme version of that, the variation on the theme, in that this woman has a relationship with a man even though she's like, I am a lesbian. The word bisexual just doesn't really seem to come into it. If you're giving it the most generous reading possible, it's like, yeah, sometimes people identify one way, but their identity versus their inner feelings versus what they actually do in real life don't necessarily always align perfectly, and language is messy and people's identities are messy and blah, blah, blah. Or it could just be a movie that a lot of people are called biphobic. You know, comme ci, comme ça, a bit of this, bit of that. So this is another one of those things where it's like, there is nothing inherently wrong with someone being in a love triangle, other than love triangles, again, being very boring. We've said it before. They could just be solved by polyamory, and they almost never go there. Sense8, pour one out for that cancelled show. It really went there where they were like, yeah, we simply will solve love triangles with polyamory. Chef's kiss. In general, it's kind of like the will they won't they of like a love triangle is just very like contrived. So that alone is like it's already not good without even including any of the like potential elements of biphobia that can go into this, because obviously it can feed into the classic tropes of the bisexual being greedy, the bisexual being like torn between men and women and who they really want, and the implication that who they choose is like their actual sexuality, which is obviously all nonsense. Just because a bisexual is in a relationship with a man doesn't make them straight, or doesn't make them gay if they're in a relationship with a woman. It's not how sexuality works, gang. It's not that like the idea of a love triangle as a trope is inherently bad, I guess. I admit. But it is just that it feeds into all of these other, you know, potentially sticky biphobic issues, because there's no reason why a bisexual character has to actively be dating or show themselves to be like really interested in romantically pursuing all genders in one movie so that you believe that they're bisexual. They can just say they're bisexual and be in a relationship with one person, or not pursue anyone, or like pursue people sequentially at different points in their lives and not have it just be like a love triangle all at once. But again, there's nothing inherently bad about it. And again, there will be people who are in love triangles in real life. For this last one, like I have put my own personal preferences unashamedly into this tier ranking. For this last one, because you can't skip the scenes, because oftentimes it's like a big part of the plot that there's like a love triangle happening, I would personally be like, is it a crime? But I guess for this, to be fair, for this very last one, give it a bit of leeway, and we're going to put it in a some nuanced July, because sometimes I guess love triangle stories can be interesting and might be able to work. On the one side is the ones that are sort of like a bit tedious and imply biphobia. On the other hand is we're all just in a queer relationship together and we're all vibing and everyone's having a good time. And those coexist technically within this trope. So for the final one, I wish I could give you an extreme final one. Like we really launched straight into it with a crime as our first trope in this video. And we're ending with a both sides vibes, but that's just the way the cookie crumbled, guys. That's just the way that I numbered these tropes in my Google Doc. So we're ending with a some nuanced July. So what have we learned here today? We've learned that I would like someone to make a movie involving queer women where, you know, if they're going to be romantically involved, they simply are the same age or close to it. Someone touches someone else's hair with their hands and maybe writes them a letter. Is that too much to ask? I feel like that would make a great movie. Also, there has to be plot. Really, I would ultimately just love there to be plot. That's what I'm really looking for in these movies, which sometimes tropes can throw up amazing plot. Tropes can be an incredible way to enter into a genre. There are some tropes within genres that are like very well worn because they just work really well in like the romance genre, the action genre, the like even the period genre. And some of them, like the ones that I've committed to trope jail today, maybe just need to calm down and like be replaced with storyline and character development and genuine chemistry between leads. That's my final judgment. Let me know in the comments if you disagree. Now, at this point, you might be thinking, Rowan, you've trashed so many tropes today. What movies do you recommend other than The Handmaiden? And to that, I say, I'm going to refer you back to the link in the description that I mentioned earlier and the Queer Movie Podcast Patreon, where you'll be able to get personalized recommendations and or the whole book I wrote, which has a not actually going to show you a whole thing about movies that I recommend in representation, along with basically every other topic under the sun for someone who is a queer girl who's growing up, whatever age you are. It's got every topic pretty much from like identity, coming out or not, representation, history, culture, activism and advocacy, sex, consent, relationships, lots of things besides. Also, most importantly, very cute illustrations by Jackie Sheridan. It is not even midday. I am off to have an ice cold bath like that frail little boy in the secret garden and then simply nap until the sun goes down. Thanks so much for watching. And again, thanks to Fiverr for sponsoring this absolute nonsense. You can get 10% off with my code Rowan and find like all of the different freelancers and services that you might require for your projects at fiverr.co/Rowan.